What's up, future millionaires? Okay, so I know I'm running a little behind today, and honestly, this newborn has completely destroyed my sleep schedule. But hey, that's life with a baby, right? Don't worry though, I'm still committed to bringing you guys the content you need, even if the timing gets a little crazy sometimes. Now here's what I'm seeing that has me really excited, and maybe a little nervous too. We might be setting up for something that looks a lot like what happened back in 2020 and 2021. Remember those days? Yeah, we might be heading there again. If you caught my late night video yesterday around midnight, you know I was already talking about this exact same thing, drawing those parallels back to 2020 when the Fed was pumping stimulus like there was no tomorrow. So let's dive into what the market is telling us right now. We're sitting at a total crypto market cap of $3.5 trillion. We actually touched $3.6 trillion recently. Now, I'm trying to show you this on the chart here, and what's really important is that we hit right around those October 30th lows, the same levels we saw back on the 22nd. Here's the thing that's got my attention. This level that used to be support is now acting as resistance. That's a big deal, folks. We need to break above this 3.6 trillion mark because if we don't, we're going to keep chopping around, and worse, we could see new lows. And trust me, nobody wants that. This is our make or break moment. You can see it clear as day on the chart from mid-October. Breaking through 3.6 trillion isn't going to be easy, but once we punch through that ceiling, I'm expecting this market to rocket back up to those previous highs we've been dreaming about.
And here's something really interesting that caught my eye. The Fear and Greed Index just jumped back up to 31. Now that might not sound like a huge number, but here's why this matters. It's telling us that things are actually starting to shift in the market. We're seeing some real improvement happening right before our eyes, and I'm going to break down exactly what this means for all of us in just a minute. All right, let's kick things off with Bitcoin. And guys, I've got to tell you, that weekly candle close was absolutely beautiful. I mean, we're talking about a really solid, strong close that has me feeling pretty optimistic. What made it even better? We closed right on that crucial trend line, which is exactly where we wanted to see it. This is the kind of technical setup that gets me excited. Now here's what we're really watching for. We need Bitcoin to hold this trend line and then, boom, we could see a massive breakout to the upside. This is where it gets really exciting, guys. So I mentioned some key levels we need to watch, and let me walk you through them real quick. First up, we've got to smash through these recent highs. That's our first hurdle. Once we clear that, the next big battle is around 119.5K. You can see that resistance level from way back here on the chart. That's going to be a tough fight, but here's the beautiful part. Once we break through that 119.5K level, we're in uncharted territory. We'll be clearing those all-time highs, and at that point, sky's the limit, future millionaires. This is the kind of setup that could change everything for Bitcoin holders. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're not talking about something that's going to happen overnight. This is going to take some time to play out. But here's what has me really excited. I'm watching for Bitcoin to make one of those explosive, massive moves that we all love to see. Think about it. If we can actually break through these previous highs and start chipping away at those major resistance levels on the chart, we're talking about a game-changing moment for the entire crypto market. This could be the catalyst that sets everything else in motion. So while we need to be patient, the setup is absolutely there for something big. And when Bitcoin makes those impulsive moves, well, that's when fortunes are made, future millionaires.
So, definitely watching Bitcoin closely over the next couple days. Now let's talk about the star of the show today, XRP. And wow, what a day it's been. XRP absolutely exploded earlier, shooting up and hitting a high of nearly $2.60. I mean, that's the kind of move that gets everyone's attention. But here's what I know some of you are thinking right now, because I can already see the comments coming. Wait a minute, it's pulled back a bit since then. What's going on? Are the whales dumping? Is Ripple selling their bags? Should I be worried? Let me put your minds at ease right now. The answer is no. And I'm going to show you exactly why on this 24-hour chart. All right, guys, I need to address something really important that's been happening over the last few days, and honestly, it's got me pretty concerned. I'm seeing more and more reports of people getting their funds frozen on exchanges like MEXC, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that gives our entire crypto space a bad name. Here's the thing. This is a massive problem that keeps happening because we're still operating in this Wild West environment where these exchanges aren't properly regulated. It's scary, and it's real. This is exactly why I've been preaching to you guys forever about one simple rule. Never leave your crypto on exchanges. I don't care if it's a hardware wallet, cold storage, or whatever method you choose. Get your coins off these platforms. Your crypto, your keys, your control. Period. Don't let some exchange hold your financial future hostage.
XRP just hit major resistance right around roughly $253. So here's the deal. We've got to smash through that resistance level first. But guys, even when we do that, we're not in the clear just yet. We've still got another major hurdle waiting for us right around $2.70. Think of it like climbing a mountain. We're not at the summit until we break through all these levels. But here's the exciting part. Once we clear that $2.70 mark, that's when things could get really interesting. Now here's the key level we absolutely need to watch. We've got to flip this midline and turn it into rock-solid support. I'm talking about that crucial $2.75 level. This isn't just any ordinary resistance. This is major support territory once we claim it. And then after that, we have highs to clear on this chart. So I know that you guys don't want me to say this. Look, I know this isn't what you want to hear. Trust me, I get it. Nobody likes being told to be patient, especially when we're all itching to see XRP moon. But here's the reality. Until we start breaking out and creating that beautiful bullish structure we all love to see, I've got to keep my expectations in check. But, and this is a big but, here's what could change everything overnight. ETF announcements, ETF approvals, or any major regulatory news. These kinds of catalysts can completely flip these charts in a matter of hours, not days or weeks. So here's what I'm watching for. We need to break above those key highs and start building that bullish momentum again. Once we see that happening, that's when I get excited. And that's when we can start talking about those price targets that'll make all this waiting worth it. Future millionaires. Now, when we zoom out to the weekly chart, things still look pretty solid. But I've got to be honest with you. I want to see XRP doing a lot more heavy lifting on this time frame. Here's my key level. We need to see a clean break above $2.76. That's the magic number I'm watching. Until we actually smash through that level, we're probably going to keep bouncing around in this range. And I know that's frustrating for all you XRP holders out there. But here's the bigger picture strategy. Bitcoin needs to lead the charge first. Once Bitcoin starts clearing those previous highs, that's when the altcoin party really gets started. Think of Bitcoin as the engine that pulls the entire crypto train, including XRP. And let's not forget why XRP was pumping today in the first place. It's all about those ETF rumors. That's the kind of news that can change everything for XRP. So keep your eyes peeled for more developments on that front. Okay, so I know everyone's been buzzing about these ETFs, and for good reason. We've got some serious momentum building here. You remember when I talked about this yesterday? Every single time we see ETFs get listed on the DTCC platform, they almost always move toward approval. It's like watching dominoes fall. And guess what? We've now got Franklin Templeton, 21 shares, Canary Capital, and CoinShares all listed on the DTCC platform. This news alone sent XRP rocketing up over 12%. That's the kind of explosive move we love to see. Here's where it gets really exciting. If these ETFs start getting approved this week or next week, we could see XRP absolutely explode. I'm talking about the kind of price action that clears all these resistance levels and sends us straight back to those July highs around $3.65. Can you imagine? We could be looking at a complete game changer for XRP holders. Now, switching gears for a second, today was also absolutely massive for the stock market. I don't know how many of you keep an eye on stocks, but all right, let's talk about what just happened in the stock market because this is huge. We're talking about $1 trillion added to the US stock market in a single day. That's not a typo, folks. Here's the breakdown. The S&P 500 jumped 1.5%, the Nasdaq exploded up 2.1%, and even the Dow gained 0.8%. What triggered this massive surge? The Senate finally made progress on ending that brutal 31-day government shutdown that's been hanging over everyone's heads. But here's what really caught my attention. The tech giants absolutely went ballistic. Palantir shot up 8.8%, and Nvidia crushed it with a 5.9% gain. All this momentum around AI growth and economic stability has everyone feeling bullish again. Now, I've been seeing tons of chatter on X about people potentially rotating from stocks into crypto. And while some folks are skeptical about making that move, here's what I think. We're probably not going to see some crazy mass exodus from stocks, but we should definitely start seeing some rotation happening. But here's the real key point I want you to focus on. This is all about liquidity flooding back into the markets. And when liquidity improves, guess what benefits? That's right, crypto. Let me break down exactly how this affects us. All right, let's dive into the S&P chart because this is where things get really interesting. And by the way, if you're not in the Discord yet, you're missing out. I charted all of this live for the community. So here's what happened. The S&P took a nasty dive all the way down to that 78.6% retracement level. But here's the beautiful part. On November 7th, we didn't just sit there and sulk. We had a massive rejection from that 78.6% level and closed strong above the 61.8% retracement. That's textbook bullish behavior right there. Then came yesterday, November 10th, and wow! We had such an explosive open that we didn't just test resistance, we absolutely smashed through it. Remember that October 9th high that I was watching? That was major resistance that everyone thought would hold us back again. Well, guess what? We blew right past it like it was nothing. And it gets even better. We closed right at that first major high from November 5th and pushed above that too. This is the kind of momentum that changes everything, future millionaires. So our next major target? Those all-time highs from October 29th. And if we really want to get crazy, I'm eyeing that 161.8% extension level around 7,100 for the S&P. Can you imagine? That would be absolutely insane. Now, I'm watching this super closely because I really don't want to see any major rejections here. But here's why this matters so much for all of us crypto holders. The S&P is basically showing us the blueprint for what we should expect from crypto going forward. Now, will crypto have the exact same rally? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But honestly, I think there's a real possibility we could see something similar, or maybe even better. This is exactly why I'm going to be glued to the charts this week, watching Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, and the entire market like a hawk. Because if my theory is right, and this really is like 2020 all over again, well, let's just say you don't want to miss what could be coming next, future millionaires. All right, so I came across this absolutely mind-blowing post from Dan Gamber, or Gambarello as some of you might know him. And guys, this literally gave me chills when I read it. He basically laid out the entire economic environment we're looking at right now, and it's scary how similar this is to 2020. Are you ready for this list? We're potentially looking at $2,000 stimulus payments to Americans, the government shutdown finally ending, QT wrapping up, Fed rate cuts, Treasury pumping liquidity into the markets, the entire business cycle flipping to expansion mode, the Clarity Act potentially passing, and, here's the kicker, an absolute tsunami of altcoin ETFs coming our way. I mean, when you lay it all out like that, this feels exactly like 2020 all over again. Remember what happened to crypto during that time? If you don't, let me just say this. People who positioned themselves correctly became millionaires. The question is, are we about to witness history repeat itself? Now here's where things get really interesting. I saw this incredible post from Raoul Pal, and honestly, this is what inspired the entire title of today's video. I know I made you guys wait a bit to get to this point, but trust me, after everything we just covered, this post is going to tie it all together perfectly. So here's what Raoul said, and I want you to really listen to this because it's absolutely crucial. I know no one wants to hear bullish ideas and everyone is scared and wants to just go against the grain here. But the road to Valhalla is getting very close. The road to Valhalla, future millionaires. For those who don't know, Valhalla in crypto terms means we're talking about life-changing wealth territory. And Raoul Pal doesn't throw around statements like this lightly. This guy has been calling major market moves for years. All right, so Raoul breaks this down brilliantly, and I want you to really understand what he's saying here because this affects all of us. He says if global liquidity is the single most important factor driving markets, and it absolutely is, then we need to laser focus on this one thing. Here's the reality. We're looking at rolling over $10 trillion in debt. Everything else? It's just noise compared to this massive financial game that's playing out over the next 12 months. Now here's what's been happening. This government shutdown has basically choked off liquidity because the Treasury General account keeps building up money with nowhere to spend it. And that, my friends, is exactly why we've seen these markets get squeezed so tight. But here's the beautiful part. Remember when we heard about that shutdown bill progress? Boom! That's why stocks absolutely exploded. We're talking about a 3.23% rally from Friday to Monday. That's $214 billion in value added in basically one day. That's the power of liquidity, folks. But Raoul goes deeper. He explains that the reverse repo facility is already drained, and QT is making it even worse. This liquidity crunch hits crypto the hardest because we're the most liquidity-sensitive market out there. Meanwhile, traditional finance managers are having their worst year ever, and they're desperately chasing performance, which is why tech stocks have been more stable than crypto. But here's his warning. If this liquidity drain continues much longer, even stocks are going to get hammered hard. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. And this is why I'm so excited about what's coming next. The moment this government shutdown ends, we're talking about the Treasury unleashing between $250 billion to $350 billion into the markets in just a couple of months. Can you wrap your head around that kind of money flowing into the system? And it gets even better. QT, that's quantitative tightening for those new to this, comes to an end, which means the Fed's balance sheet actually starts expanding again. Translation? More money printing, more liquidity. Then we've got the dollar likely starting to weaken as all this liquidity begins flowing through the system. Plus, those tariff negotiations that have been creating so much uncertainty, they'll be mostly wrapped up, removing that cloud hanging over the markets. And here's the kicker. Ongoing bill issuance is going to pump even more liquidity through bank balance sheets, money market funds, and yes, even stablecoins. We're talking about a perfect storm of liquidity hitting the markets, future millionaires. This is the kind of environment where crypto absolutely thrives. And we're not done yet. We're also looking at ongoing rate cuts because this shutdown is going to create some economic weakness, giving the Fed even more reason to keep cutting rates. But here's the important part. We're not talking about a recession here. This is just temporary weakness that actually works in our favor. Then we've got SLR changes. That's supplementary leverage ratio for those keeping track, which basically frees up the bank's balance sheets and allows them to expand credit. More credit means more money flowing through the system. But here's the game changer that has me absolutely pumped. The Clarity Act is going to get passed. And why am I so confident about this? Because the crypto industry desperately needs this for large-scale adoption. We're talking about banks, asset managers, and businesses finally being able to fully embrace crypto without regulatory uncertainty hanging over their heads. This isn't just hopeful thinking. This is about removing the final barriers that have been holding back institutional adoption. Once this passes, we're talking about a flood of institutional money that's been sitting on the sidelines. And then comes the cherry on top. That massive stimulus bill kicks in to absolutely supercharge the economy heading into the midterm elections. Think about this for a second. The entire political and economic system is now being engineered to deliver a strong economy and booming markets by 2026. Politicians need these markets to perform because their careers depend on it. But it's not just the US, this is a global liquidity party. China is going to keep expanding their balance sheet, pumping more money into their system. Japan is working on strengthening the yen while also throwing fiscal stimulus into the mix. We're talking about the three largest economies in the world all coordinating to flood their systems with liquidity at the same time. This isn't just bullish for one country. This is a worldwide money-printing extravaganza that's going to lift all boats, especially crypto. The ISM Manufacturing Index is going to start rising as interest rates drop and all that tariff uncertainty finally disappears. But here's the key message that I need you to really hear. You just need to get through this temporary window of pain. And then the liquidity flood is waiting for you on the other side. This is the most important part, future millionaires. You absolutely do not want to mess this up by trying to time the market perfectly. The volatility we're seeing right now? This is the price of admission for what's coming next. Remember, the biggest gains happen when things look the scariest. While everyone else is panicking and selling, the smart money is positioning for the flood of liquidity that's about to hit these markets. Don't let short-term volatility shake you out of what could be the biggest opportunity we've seen since 2020. Drawdowns like this are commonplace in bull markets, and their job is to test your faith. All right, so let me show you something really important here. This chart you're looking at? This is the total liquidity index, and this tells us everything about where money is flowing in the markets. Right now, we're technically still in an uptrend, but here's what has me paying close attention. This liquidity hasn't really exploded in a big way yet. We're kind of sitting in this holding pattern, waiting for the next major move. And this brings us to the million-dollar question. What is the Fed going to do next? Because remember, we just got that huge announcement from President Trump about the $2,000 tariff dividend per person. This isn't just pocket change we're talking about. This is real money that's going to flow directly into the economy. And if history tells us anything,
When Americans get stimulus money, a good chunk of it finds its way into investments, including crypto.
This just got posted from the Kobe EC letter, and guys, we've been talking about this exact scenario. Stimulus checks are officially making a comeback. So here's exactly what Trump said, and I want you to hear this word for word because it's absolutely massive. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt. 37 trillion record investment in the USA. Plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Did you catch that? Trump is basically confirming that $2,000 per person is happening. Now look, this isn't going to happen overnight. These things take time to work through the system. But here's my take. I would not bet against Trump delivering on this promise. When the man says he's going to do something, he usually finds a way to make it happen. And $2,000 per person? That's huge money flowing into the economy. Now let's talk about what the Fed is doing because this is where things get really interesting. The Kobe EC letter dropped an absolutely crucial post back on October 16th about the reverse repo facility. And this data is mind-blowing. Check this out. Demand for the Fed's reverse repo facility has crashed all the way down to just $4.1 billion. That's the lowest we've seen since April 2021. We're talking about a massive $2.5 trillion decline from its peak back in December 2022. That's not a typo. $2.5 trillion. But here's where it gets scary. Bank reserves at the Fed have dropped below $3 trillion, and many Fed officials consider this the absolute red line between having abundant liquidity and entering scarcity territory. When we hit these low levels, the financial system starts to strain. Banks have a harder time lending money. We see spikes in market volatility. And in the worst-case scenario, bank failures become a real possibility. And this is exactly why Fed Chair Powell just admitted that the end of QT, quantitative tightening, may be approaching in the coming months as liquidity conditions get tighter and tighter. Translation? The money printer is about to fire back up, future millionaires. Market liquidity is sitting at an absolutely critical tipping point right now. And guys, this is giving me serious deja vu because this looks exactly like what we saw back in 2020 going into 2021. Remember what happened during that period? The entire crypto market absolutely exploded. Bitcoin went parabolic, altcoins went to the moon, and people became millionaires overnight. This liquidity is about to expand and increase in a massive way, and that's when we start seeing the entire market wake up from this prolonged sleep. Everything we've been waiting for, everything we've been positioning for, it all comes down to one thing: liquidity. When that liquidity floodgate opens, that's when the magic happens, future millionaires. And based on everything we're seeing right now, we're getting very, very close to that moment. I've got to say, I think Raoul Pal is absolutely spot on here. And honestly, I think everyone watching this video should be preparing themselves for a complete 180-degree reversal when it comes to liquidity. Think about it. Liquidity has been squeezed tighter than we've seen in years, especially with this brutal 40-day government shutdown that's been choking off the money supply. But here's what has me really excited. Stocks are already trading like this shutdown is going to end this week. The market is front-running this news, which tells me smart money is positioning for what's coming next. And once we get that big official update confirming the shutdown is over, that's when I expect crypto to absolutely roar back to life. We're talking about pent-up liquidity that's been waiting on the sidelines for weeks, all ready to flood back into risk assets like crypto. Get ready, future millionaires. The reversal is coming. So here's my game plan moving forward. I'm laser-focused on Bitcoin and XRP during this crucial period, keeping a close eye on all the key metrics and chart levels we discussed today. And honestly, the charts are looking absolutely beautiful right now. I'm not concerned at all about where we're headed. But here's where it gets really exciting. If we start seeing that liquidity improvement we talked about, if that shutdown deal gets finalized, and if these XRP ETFs start getting approved, we're looking at a perfect storm that could change everything in the crypto space. This could be the catalyst combination that launches us into that next major bull phase we've all been waiting for. All right, future millionaires, that's a wrap on today's analysis.
If this breakdown helped you understand what's coming next, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss the latest updates. I'm dropping free content regularly to help you navigate these markets, so make sure you're following along for the ride. Until next time, keep building that future millionaire mindset.